Good morning. We will start session 2 on chapter atoms and molecules. So in the session 1 we understood about law of chemical combinations and about Dalton's atomic theory. So now we'll move on to the next one, elements. So what are elements? Group of several atoms combined together to form an element. So symbols of element, how do we identify or how do we remember these elements? So Berzelius gave a particular what you can say is a symbol to identify or to remember these elements, and further Dalton also gave some symbolic formula for these elements. A symbol is a shorthand notation of an element which can be represented by a sketch or by a letter. So by a sketch, Dalton identified these elements by a sketch. For example, he represented them by a dot structure. For hydrogen, he represented that if by this structure, that is, if I draw this structure, it is represented as hydrogen, or another one if I have to represent it as a carbon. So this completely, if I color this dot, it is represented as carbon. I think you can read this in this book: phosphorus, copper, gold, then sulfur, lead, platinum, oxygen, iron, silver, mercury. And that would be difficult to remember the sketch always, right? So though Dalton initially started that, but that could not be successfully utilized further also because remembering the elements by a sketch would be much difficult. So Berzelius also had given about a particular notation to remember these elements. How? You can remember a particular element by the first letter or by the first two letters. For example, now we have hydrogen. The symbol of hydrogen can be H. We have carbon. The symbol of carbon can be C. Then we have also calcium, right? So if I say calcium, what would be the symbol of calcium? It would be again C, but we already have C as a carbon. So he started using some other notations for that. For example, calcium can be represented by Ca. First two letters, but make sure that the first letter is always capital and the second letter is a lowercase, right? This is how we represent the elements by a particular notation. So these are by just representing it by either its first letter or the first two letters, where the first letter is in the uppercase and the second letter is in the lowercase. Apart from this, there are also some Latin names for the elements what we remember. Now for example, we have sodium, right? Now sodium we do not denote that by S because S stands for sulfur, nor SO, but we denote sodium by Na. But where is this N and A in sodium? Both the letters are not mentioned, but sodium in Latin we also call that as a natrium. So if I say natrium, so the first two letters, that is N and A. So we use Latin names for the certain elements. Now for example here, some elements where we use, you remember in the previous session for iron I had written Fe, right? So Fe is for iron, but iron is IRON. None of these letters are being used. That means Fe is derived from its Latin name. So for iron it is ferrum. It's given in the notes, children. For sodium it is natrium. For potassium it is kalium. So these are a few Latin names. Now here you need not remember the Latin names of them. You need to only remember the symbols of these elements. That at least how many elements now you have to remember? At least first 20 elements you have to remember. Now what are these first 20 elements? You will study them further. Now see in the book what we have given here, I have not given it in order here. What is that order? You will come to know later. Aluminium is Al, argon Ar, barium Ba, calcium Ca, carbon C, chlorine, cobalt, copper, fluorine, gold. There are several such elements given along with their symbols, and these symbols are also accepted by IUPAC. Now what is this IUPAC? IUPAC stands for International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. Now anything what we give or anything what we do it in the chemistry, in this part, that has to be, it's an organization what you can say, that has to be accepted, and you can say a red signal, yes, now this is accepted all over worldwide, and we can, IUPAC will give its name. Now if you remember in diversity chapter, nomenclature what we had. Now for example, a particular name if I start calling, now tiger or mango, it is like Pagnifera what we had, right? Now mango is called in English, it is mango. In other language it is called, in Hindi we call that as in different languages mango is called in different terms. But for one biological name, what it has, suppose you are studying on that particular part, so everybody will know the particular mango by a particular name itself, where worldwide it is accepted, right? That we studied in diversity chapter as nomenclature, if you remember. Similarly here, this is accepted by IUPAC, means it is a standard thing what is being accepted. You can't change that, or anybody here tomorrow they can't say that no, hydrogen is H, why I metal not as H. No, it is accepted by IUPAC, where IUPAC stands for International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. So now IUPAC approves the names of these elements. So these names what are being given, it is being approved by IUPAC. Then how to write this, it is again mentioned here, and the element and the symbols are also mentioned in the book. So that is about symbols and elements. The next concept what we study here about is atomic mass. Now we understood about an atom, right? Now what is this atomic mass? The mass of an atom of an element is called as a atomic mass. Now for example, I go to market to bring vegetables. So how do I bring them? I go to market to bring banana. So of course I get bananas in kgs, or I get them in terms of dozens. I get apples in kgs. Do I tell the shopkeeper, give me 5 milligrams of bananas? No, right? We have a particular half kg we say, 1/4 kg we say, kg we say. Milligrams do we go and buy? Example I am asking you. No, there is a standard unit for measurement. We know now apples can be measured in terms of kg. If you go to buy milk in terms of liters, right? Similarly, atom, just imagine, I have an atom, I have to weigh the atom. Example. Now, I am weighing apples here. That means I have those weight stones with me, 1 kg, 2 kg for comparison. See, now this is a weight. So, here I have some apples. Now, though I have to weigh this, I need to put that either 1 kg stone or half kg stone just to balance them. I use the kg stones here, not the milligram or something stones over here. Correct? With that, I compare and I measure the apples. Now, similarly, assume that I have put some atoms here. One atom is present here. Now, how do I find the mass of an apple? Not apple. How do I find a mass of an atom? Atom being so small, can you just imagine what would be the mass of an atom? Right? Quite very difficult. But how, with what would I compare this? Now, today if I tell that, okay, I am few inches taller than my sister. I am few inches shorter than my brother. Example, do I compare myself to somebody else and tell my height? If in case I want to compare, am I tall in my family? How do I know? That means I need to compare myself to my family members, my brothers, my sisters, my siblings, right? We do that. So that means to check something, we need to have a comparison. Similarly here, to check the mass of an atom, we need to compare that with something else. Now with what to compare? So initially, they started comparing that with other elements. Say, let us compare that with hydrogen's mass. Let us compare that with helium's mass. But when we were comparing that with other things, we were getting in very small numbers, say decimal numbers. So appropriate what we found was, whenever we wanted to find the atomic mass, only and if and only we are comparing that with a carbon atom, carbon element for example. So whenever I could compare a given atom's mass with the carbon's element's mass, I would get the relative atomic mass of a given element. Relative because I am comparing it with something, right? So, atomic mass is defined as the quantity of mass equal to 1/12 the mass of an atom of carbon 12. Now, why is that 1/12? Now, suppose example, just think that we have 12 friends or we have 12 members in a family. So you get a cake. So now that cake has to be distributed among 12 pieces, right? Because there are 12 members and no partiality. Everyone will get one piece. So out of this, so 12 pieces if I have to make of this cake, each piece, assume that these are 12, each piece is nothing but 1/12, right? This each piece can tell me the atomic mass of a particular element. So, it is defined as the quantity of mass equal to 1/12. So, that carbon atom, what is there? That element carbon, so the atoms in that, so element carbon we will consider. In that, if I make 12 pieces, one part, 1/12 of the mass of the atom of a carbon 12, what we use here. One atomic, and it is measured in terms of atomic mass unit, which is read as AMU, or simply it is read as units. It is unified as units. Units is nothing but atomic mass unit. So one atomic mass unit or unit is equal to 1/12 the mass of carbon 12 element. So 1 unit, that is 1 AMU, is equal to 1.66 into 10 raised to minus 27 kg. So with that respect, we could able to find the mass of a given element. Now the mass of the given element, to remember them is very important. Some, like, you need not calculate them, but readily mass which are given in your book, which you have to remember. Now for example, what is given in the book here is hydrogen mass is 1, because first is the hydrogen element, right? In the classification, when we see that hydrogen is the first element, so hydrogen is 1. That's because it is with comparison to carbon 12 element there, one part of it. It is not exactly 1, children. You get that in decimal, 1.0 something. So we term that as 1. Then carbon is 12. It's a mass of a carbon. Nitrogen is 14 units, 14 AMU or U. I've given that in the book. You need to remember this mass. Now sometimes in school what happens, they will tell you atomic mass need not be remembered. Atomic mass will be given to you all where and when is required to calculate the numerical. So calculate the relative atomic mass of a given compound. But still, it is on the safer side. It will be good enough if you remember these atomic mass of at least these elements which are given in the book, which are given in the notes. So these are the atomic mass of several elements. Now they will not ask you, how did you come to a conclusion that nitrogen's atomic mass is 14 units? How did you measure that? We could measure only when it is compared with respect to carbon 12 element. Mass of 1/12, the mass of carbon 12. Readily we have got the answer here. But how did we arrive at that? It's only because of this. Almost most of them will come in decimals. Like see, chlorine is given as 35.5. Even some other elements will also come in point decimal. We just round off to the nearest one and the standard values are given. These standard values are present in all books. So these are the atomic mass of an element. Now how do we represent an atomic mass? Suppose if Z or X is an element, if I represent, mass is written here. This you will again study further when we also discuss about atom, its atomic mass and atomic number. Now the next part, let us understand about what are molecules. Now we understood about atoms. Now how is an atom different from a molecule? Or how does an atom exist? Atom exists in what? In that form we understood, but still, does atom exist in free state or combined state? We need to understand. To understand that, first we have to understand what is a molecule. Now for example, if I talk about, now oxygen is an element, like oxygen has, there is one atom here, right? So when I talk about the element, so here when we talk about an oxygen, how many atoms of oxygen are present? One atom of oxygen is present. But when we talk about a molecule, these elements or these atoms, they combine together to form a molecule. I combine hydrogen and I combine oxygen and I form a water molecule. So these atoms are combining together to form a water molecule, which is nothing but a compound, children. But how is this formed? It is formed by the combination of the atoms. Let's understand that a bit in detail. So, existence of atoms. So sometimes these atoms of these elements also exist in free state, also they exist in the, what you can say is combined state, or what we can say that free state in the sense like they do not take part in the chemical reaction, they are free from everything. Now why they do not take part in the chemical reaction, you will study that further. These are called as noble gases. So helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, all these will come under the free state element, where also they do not take any part in the chemical reactions. Now for example, now what is a chemical reaction? Hydrogen combining with water is a chemical reaction. There is a chemical reaction happening there, right? That means the elements which can take part in the chemical reactions are not the free state element. You will also understand later as when we proceed in this chapter why cannot these elements take part in the chemical reaction. Most of the elements, there are very few elements which occur in free state, but most of the elements are very reactive and they occur in the combined state. Atoms of all other elements combine together to form ions or molecules. They either exist in the free state, they either exist in form of a single atom, or they form in the, or they exist in the form of a molecule. That is, atoms of all other elements combine together to form an ion or a molecule. Now what is a molecule here? A molecule is a group of two or more atoms that are chemically bonded together. So example, now water if I talk about here. So what has happened with water? It's with hydrogen and oxygen, right? So it is group of two or more atoms that are chemically bonded together. They form a molecule. Water molecule when we talk about. In that we have again two types, children. Homoatomic molecules and heteroatomic molecules. Now we know that molecules are nothing but two or more atoms are combined together, right? So in homoatomic molecules, the same type of atoms, elements of same type are combined. Now it is hydrogen is a homoatomic type, oxygen is a homoatomic, ozone is a homoatomic, phosphorus, sulfur. Because when we write them, they are combined, where same number of atoms, elements are together grouped over here. Now, few more examples if I have to give you. Phosphorus also exists in form of P4 and sulfur in form of Sa. So containing atoms of same element. So these contains atoms of hydrogen element only. These contains atoms of oxygen elements only. So they are called as homoatomic. Heteroatomic or a compound. So they combine, they contain atoms of different elements. See here, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, oxygen, anything. When they combine, they are called as heteroatomic molecules. So here we study them a bit in basics, what you can say, not much in detail or a brief. To what extent we want to know in the syllabus, we will learn here, children. What I can say is the chapter atoms and molecules and the next chapter more about atoms is the base what you study, and in detail you have again the next chapters in 10th grade as periodic classification, where you make use of this what you have studied and apply it there. How we frame a chemical, how a compound is formed, how do we obtain the formula for a particular chemical compound, that all we learn in this chapter which we apply in the 10th grade. So this is about molecules. Now next let us understand about atomicity. And the next part is atomicity. Atomicity will tell us the number of atoms present in one molecule of an atom. That represents the atomicity of a given element. For example, what is the monoatomic? Molecule formed by a single atom is called as a monoatomic. Helium, neon, argon, krypton. Basically, these are only formed by the single atom. Basically, all noble gases will come under monoatomic. Diatomic, a molecule formed by two atoms. Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine, etc. Triatomic, formed by three atoms, that is ozone. Tetraatomic, tetra is 4, nothing but phosphorus. Polyatomic, so basically we know, right, monomial, binomial, trinomial and polynomial. When we consider, polynomial is something which has more than 2, right? Similarly here, polyatomic is a molecule containing more than what you can say 2 atoms. That means if it has more than 2, that is termed as polyatomic only. But still we have a name for that, which is triatomic. We have a name for that, which is tetraatomic. Beyond that, whatever we call that as a polyatomic. For example, tomorrow if I ask you, give an example for a polyatomic elements or something, you can directly say sulfur. You can also write phosphorus in that, right? That's correct, because it has more than 2 generally. Ozone also can come in that because it has more than 2. But generally we already name for that as triatomic, tetra, and the last one is polyatomic. On atomicity, usually 1 mark questions are asked. They are asked to identify or give examples for monoatomicity or diatomicity, tetraatomicity or polyatomicity of a given element. So with this we end with today's session. So now tomorrow's session is going to be, of course, today till yesterday's session, that is session 1 and session 2 are equally important. But the tomorrow's session, what we are doing is very, very important, where we also learn how to form a chemical compound. Now, for example, we know that hydrogen combines with oxygen, right? So we get water, H2O oil, right? So sodium combines with chlorine, gives me sodium chloride. So now magnesium combines with chlorine, so gives me magnesium chloride, MgCl2. But why not NaCl2 I wrote? Why did I write MgCl2 here, right? So all these things, how to frame a chemical compound, that we'll be learning in the tomorrow's session.